Bam! New gear! This is the GoPro HERO7 Black. I've personally been looking forward to this launch because I've been using GoPro for a long time. I got my Hero 2 like forever ago and a lot has happened since then. The GoPro HERO7 has a lot of new upgrades and in this video we'll take you through the most important changes. A little detail before we look at the important stuff. The HERO7 Black is actually black. And now it also has a label with HERO7 on the side of the camera and on the included frame. Other than that, it looks exactly the same as its predecessors Hero 5 and Hero 6, and that, brilliantly enough, lets you use the same battery and accessories including cases, mounts and filters. The first and probably most important feature is the hyper smooth stabilization. From before, the Hero 6 had electronic image stabilization, EIS, which would stabilize in 2 axes. New in this model is the Hyper Smooth, which will work in 4K 60, 1080p 60, 1440p 60, etc. We're gonna go test it out right now using the old Hero 5. So let's go. GoPro claims that the Hyper Smooth is a gimbal killer. That is a bold statement and we do not agree completely. A gimbal will physically steady your camera, securing sharpness and movement. Hypersmooth would not do that, but using built-in gyros and predictive scene analysis, it will electronically stabilize your footage. Unlike the Sony FDR-X3000, the HERO7 does not have optical stabilization, but the electronic stabilization works really well. It's not as good as a gimbal, but closer than anything we've seen before. A little tip here, Hypersmooth will crop 10% of your image, making it a bit softer, so if you want a sharp image, just overcrank the resolution and scale down. As an example, you can shoot in 4K and scale down to full HD. New this year is also the ability to shoot with even higher frame rates. Double the frame rate of the Hero 6 to be precise, meaning 240 frames per second in full HD and 60 frames per second in 4K. Worth mentioning is that the Hyper Smooth stabilizing will only work in 60 frames per second and down. You also have the ability to view your slow motion clips directly on the camera before post-editing, which is nice if you want to make sure you're nailing those slow-mo clips. If you shoot a clip in 120 frames per second, you can set the camera to play it in 25. An improved auto white balance has also been added, so the camera will now better recognize being underwater, in snow or other difficult lighting situations. Another new function is the time warp, or hyperlapse as everyone else calls it, and to test that out we got GoPro's chest mount together with this little homemade rig. On earlier GoPros, the time warp meant shooting multiple photos and putting them together. On the Hero 7, you're now shooting video, stabilized video, which is then analyzed and crafted into a hyperlapse video. Comparing with the previous models, the result is just so much smoother and better. If you want to shoot a hyperlapse of the sunrise, sunset, or other low-light situations, you should stick with the normal time-lapse photo option, as it will give you less noise in the dark areas of the frame. They've juiced up the Hero 7 with an extra gigabyte of RAM so that it can handle extra processing required for higher frame rates, predictive scene analysis, for stabilizing and so on. The responsiveness and loading time is also improved, so the camera reacts faster when using the touchscreen and the 2 outside buttons. The improved speed also counts for when using the GoPro app, as it both pairs and responds faster than on the previous models. If you hold the camera in a vertical orientation, it will now automatically switch to portrait mode. You can see the menu changing orientation as soon as we flip it 90 degrees. The portrait mode is cool if you want to shoot portrait pictures or if you want to share your footage in apps like Snapchat and Facebook. Sound quality has never been one of GoPro's strengths, but now on the Hero 7 you can actually feel that they've done some good adjustments. There's now a new membrane outside of the microphone that will take away more of that distortion from wind and high speeds. Of course, if you're underwater, you're still gonna get muffled sounds. This is the first GoPro to have a self-timer. Handy if you want to shoot photos of yourself without a selfie stick. You can set the timer to either 3 or 10 seconds. This is a small but cool features. In many cases, 15 or 30 seconds is enough to capture a good moment, as well as being a good length for sharing in social media. Save space and editing effort with this practical feature. That was our take on the most important new features on the HERO7 Black. It's got some decent upgrades from the previous models, especially when it comes to stabilization, and you do not want to underestimate the production value of smooth motion in your videos, and that is a big plus on this camera. Playing around with slow motion is also twice as exciting now as the frame rates have doubled. The GoPro HERO7 Black is a compact, sturdy and versatile camera you can bring along anywhere. Like our video if you enjoy this review, and subscribe if you want to get notified about new videos. Peace out.